Bro, another side quest on BodeVision. If you know and recognize what this car is, it is a 3rd gen Accord hatch. And the reason why I'm excited for this is also getting a motor that should not be in this car, and that would not be in this car, and that nobody makes a kit to make it go in this car. So let's go ahead and get started.
And now, you're watching the tuned in traction control, launch control, and birth control channel of YouTube. Welcome to BodeVision.
Hey, so what is up and welcome. Thank you so much for joining me yet again on another video. So in this thing right here, the car that we call Ron Burgundy, my 3rd gen Accord, we called it Betty White. This thing is Ron Burgundy. So as you can see right here, we have absolutely nothing in here, and that is all going to change. What we have right here is a beautiful K-Series. My goal for today is to get this K-Series to go in this engine bay, and we're gonna make that happen no matter what we have to do. And just like that, look at that. Look at this, dude. We have a K-Series and a 3rd gen Accord now. Why I didn't film it? Well, to be honest, I just said to myself, before I explain to you the process, like I know exactly what's going on, because I haven't done this exact swap before, but I have the confidence in the skill to know that I could do it. So I just said, let me throw it in here. Let me see where we're at. Let me see what changes need to be made. I kind of wanted to do like a pre-drop in before I really showed you. But now we did this initial drop in without filming it, and I don't want to take it out again until we have to completely weld everything out. So the first thing that I'm seeing, this mount over here, this is a little bit too far away for me to cup it on the wall. So in order for me to make up with that distance, I'm gonna go with some 1/4 inch plate right here. And it would never ever hurt to plate in a frame as you're adding in a motor that makes easily twice the horsepower of what they made from the factory. So this guy, I need to weld this plate in here. Then once that's welded in, then I will have this at the proper spot. So I need to clean and prep this metal. The mount over there is in a really good position. I'm really happy with that. The mount over here, not so much, but I'm just going to focus on one thing at a time. So another thing that I focused on while my father was here a minute ago, we threw the hood on so that way I could check clearance. We saw that we had about an inch gap between the top of the valve cover and the lowest point rib of the hood. So we are good with that. I don't want it to come up anymore because it's going to stress the axles out more if I bring it up. I don't want it to go down anymore because the oil pan is going to get closer to the earth, and we do not want the oil pan to be the lowest thing on this car or too much lower than it needs to be. So as far as height, I'm happy with it. Now, front and back, I'm also pretty happy with it. Now, as far as parallel, level, true, plumb, whatever you want to call it in the engine bay, we have a string running back and forth between the tops of the shocks. I know the shocks are at the exact same location, so if I have a string running tight across them and they hug the valve cover and remain an inch back all the way across consistently, I know the valve cover sitting in here straight, the valve cover sitting in here straight, the axles are going to be doing what they need to do. I will also check and measure and make sure we are within factory spec for degrees of variant with the axles. But ultimately, for just the first rough test fit, I'm happy with where this is. So what I want to do now, I'm going to prep this 1/4 inch plate steel, then I'm going to tack in the 1/4 inch plate steel, and then we are going to make sure this mount is where we need to be, mark that. This one is done. We are going to mark that side. We are going to figure out what we need to do back here. Once all of that is good, we can go ahead, pull the motor, weld everything out for the final time, and then drop in the motor for the final time. Easier said than done, but where we need to start is right on this corner over here. so we are powering through this thing now. To you as the viewer, it might look like I just slapped the motor in here, tack it, all good, we're off to the races. Where in reality, there is a lot of numbers and a lot of background math and a lot of figuring out in the background. For example, the K-Series wants to sit at a 15-degree angle leaning towards the firewall. That's where the oil sump and all the pickup is going to be happy and healthy. We don't want that valve cover to be straight. Again, we want a little bit of an angle. So I had to do the math and figure out at what angle I wanted my engine mounts to be, and it turns out if the motor mounts are pretty level, we're really close to that 15-degree mark. So that's just what I shot for. I guessed and checked, and once I checked, I made a little bit of tweaking, put this strap right towards the front to kind of clock the motor a little bit. That's on the mount in the back. So in order for me to get it clocked and positioned in the right area, I have that pretty solid. Now another huge thing that we really have to pay attention to when we are custom dropping or custom figuring out where a motor needs to go, besides the fact of fitment, like the hood, the firewall, and the radiator, we need to take a look at axle angle and make sure we are within spec. So if you can see, I got everything kind of jigged up, and it's important to have it jigged up at ride height. This is the current ride height. Whether he goes with coilovers in the future is on him. We are just setting it up for his current ride height. So if you can see, we have that rod right there. Now the motor is sitting a little bit more forward than the axle, but it is as close as we can get it to the subframe over there before we have to get into there and start compromising it. And then if you get the motor a lot further back, then you have header clearance issues. So take a look down at this rod. This is for me just figuring everything out. There's that rod right there where about the tip of my finger is where it goes into the transmission. Then we have that rod coming through. It goes underneath the shock, and you can see that it's pitched at an angle, because the more forward the motor goes, the more pitched that angle is going to be. So that is not perfectly 90. In an ideal world, it would be 90, but it's not, and that's okay. So what we have right here, this is a little bit tighter than a 90, so this is about an 85 degree. On the other side is about a 95 degree. And what that tells me is we are 5 degrees off from true 90, which is okay. Think about how much the wheel turns when you're going full lock and how much adjustability that there really is. From everything that I looked up, all of the research that I did, it says you're not going to get in trouble until you exceed 10 degrees. Some people even get away with 15 degrees. So having it off sounds bad, but having it where we are at a 5-degree variance is perfectly fine with me, no problem. So all in all, what I'm getting at with this long-winded conversation is I feel confident that both of those mounts can be beyond tacked. I like where they are. Now what we need to do after we tack those a little bit more, and I feel confident with the sides being pretty good, we need to work on integrating the rear mount exactly where it is right now, because every single thing, all of the numbers, every box that we need to check is being checked. We are addressing everything that I could think of. Oil pan clearance is good. Valve cover clearance is good. All in all, everything is solid, so let's keep rolling. All right, so in this section right here, I wanted to give a little bit more of an explanation and exactly what I'm doing. So I have this 1/4-inch plate steel right there, and as you can see, I marked out my 3 holes before I went ahead and I cut it. I could have done that before and after, but either way, it is not going to make a difference. So the idea is this 1/4-inch plate steel is going to be our integrative base, because the holes for that rear mount, they do not line up in the holes for the subframe, and you have to have something threaded for it to screw into, or for it to bolt into rather. So the idea is once I get all of those holes out there, I will put a nut and a bolt all the way through it. Then I will weld on the nut from the backside, and then this actually floats just a little bit above the old subframe. That's just naturally where it landed, so it was okay. If it did not float, I could have drilled out to allow those nuts to be recessed in there, because the goal in the end is that rear mount needs to be bolted in just like it would be from the factory, and this 1/4-inch plate is going to make that happen for us. All right, so right now we have checked a lot of boxes, and all of those boxes add up to be a K-Series in a 3rd gen Accord. So now that I have everything beyond tacked, where I know it's not going to move or shift around, what I want to do is I want to pull out the motor, pull out the trans. Well, they're going to stay together. That's how it goes in these cars. So once I get that out of the way, I can actually get into the engine bay, fully weld everything out, clean it up a little bit, maybe throw a little bit of primer on it, maybe a little bit of seam sealer if I want to make it kind of match the OEM look as if this car should have came with the K-Series. I think that's pretty cool. It looks like a technique that they used when they were assembling this car in the late 80s was they put seam sealer on and they kind of just spread it around, and I think to make that cohesive in the engine bay is a pretty cool idea. That's something that I strive for as I'm messing with cars, making it look like my work isn't extremely invasive to what the car was meant to be. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, we're gonna get this thing backed up, rip this thing out, and then get to welding, working, grinding, painting, seam sealing to wrap this thing up. Alright, so as far as the K-swap to cord goes, I just laid down some primer on some of those mounts, so I want to give that some time to dry. As that's drying up, well, I want to do the primer. That is a epoxy primer direct to metal. I want to go from that to doing a little bit of seam sealer to give it a factory match finish. So I need the primer to dry, then I'm going to throw the seam sealer on it, then we will do some more primer on top of that just to make sure everything is nice and sealed and protected. But in the meantime, as that's drying, I want to give my 1969 Cadillac Fleetwood 75 series this absolute boat. This boat needs a little bit of attention, and the first thing that I want to start off with is the power steering. The other day I put a belt on this thing because it didn't have one as it was, and this thing was absolutely, well, it was nearly impossible to drive around without it. So we threw a belt on it, but then that showed me that our system had a lot of leaks, so I went ahead and I grabbed a new power steering pump over here. So I think what I'm going to do really quickly, it's hard to say, like when you're getting stuff that's this old, it's hard to say if it's going to be the right pieces and parts and whatnot. So I got a pump, I got my receipt. The only thing that we can do is get this one pulled off, take it to the bench, make sure the pump that I got is the right piece because it doesn't include the reservoir, but I don't know if it bolts in there. The only way to find out is by ripping this one out, throwing it on the bench like I said, and seeing. So let's hit another time lapse, pull this guy out, and check it out. We got to get this thing back on the road driving because I absolutely love this car. Alright, so one thing as I'm working on cars, the decision that I have to make is, do I want to throw more time at it and more money at it? A lot of times I just say throw a little bit more money at it so that way I have more time to dedicate to other projects. But with something like this, I didn't realize that I had to completely pull it apart as is because I just bought a new pump where my pump itself was fine, it was just leaking. I figured, I don't want to deal with whatever's leaking. I'd rather just put a new pump, but it turns out where it was leaking from was going to be messed with whether I put a new pump in it or the old pump back in it. So why would I not just put the old pump in it? So the way that it works is this is kind of like the reservoir housing, and around this edge was all dirty, nasty, and gritty. And this guy goes in that and has a seal right there. So long story short, I just ended up saying, why don't I return the pump I just bought? I pulled the seal off the pump that was there, crispy, crusty with a flat spot. And also the fact that this probably hasn't had fluid in it in a long time is not good. So I returned the brand new pump. I'm going to fully rebuild this guy. Already took these out. Anything that has seals or needs seals or anywhere that seals will go, like that's one that I'll replace. So I'll just get that all knocked out and then get it all put back together, and hopefully it doesn't leak. I think with taking my time, cleaning all the surfaces and putting new seals, we're going to save a lot of money and hopefully get it back together on the road, not leaking. Well, that's one of the leaks. There's another leak further towards the firewall. We'll address that when we get there, one step at a time. So as far as the Cadillac goes with the power steering, that's what I was primarily focusing on from front to back, or from front bumper to firewall. We have the power steering pump along with all the lines. We did a full rebuild and sealed up the pump to the reservoir. That's where it was leaking from. I still see it's leaking just a little bit from one of the fittings, but I want to wait to turn it on to really dial it in and see where and why it's leaking. But another major leak point was the box itself. There's a cover plate on the bottom of the box that has a snap ring around it, and that also has an O-ring behind it, and that's what makes it sealed. Now, that was leaking from there. I got it out and everything. I went to go try to find a new O-ring. I ran all over town. I went to a hydraulics fittings place. I went to O'Reilly. I was able to find the kit to rebuild it. But the O-ring that came in the kit was a little bit thinner than the O-ring that was there anyways, and it was just leaking a little bit. So I ended up doing what I don't love doing. I just put some black Permatex RTV around it, put it back, sent it. Now we're gonna let that dry for 24 hours. I don't know if that was the absolute best fix, but it's a fix that I feel like people have been doing for years. And when you can't get the parts, you gotta do what you gotta do. So I wanna let that dry for 24 hours. We're going to pull this up a little bit, turn our attention back to the Accord now that all the paint and the mounts and the seam sealer, I threw that stuff on while I was doing this in the meantime. So let's get the motor dropped in the Accord for the final time, because once I'm done with that, I'm good to go on that thing. And just like that, we have a K24, K20. I don't even know if this thing's a K24 or K20. Either way, we have a K-Series sitting in a 3rd gen Accord. Man, I really love these cars, because you guys know one of the first crazy builds that I ever did was a LS swap 3rd gen Accord hatch. It's kind of an underdog of the Honda scene. Not a lot of people know about them. Not a lot of people care for them or build for them, but I really do like them, and I really like the idea that somebody else is doing something really cool with a 3rd gen Accord hatch. K-Series front wheel drive. It is going to be a crazy fun car. The LS and the Accord was was cool, but it did make it front heavy. This is probably similar weight. This is probably similar weight to what the motor was in here originally. So all in all, I think this thing is going to be an absolute blast to drive once he gets this wrapped up. The next thing that needs to be done, measure for axles, standalone computer, harness, the whole works, everything. That's all on the owner. I did my portion for this build. I'm glad I could share the process along with you. I'm glad you watched. So all in all, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think of this thing. Subscribe if you are not subscribed by now, and like the video, man. You gotta like the video. It doesn't take much at all. So quick little side quest. Next week we are going to possibly or probably be back on the Mustang, but you're just gonna have to stick around to find out. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you on that next one. I'm out.